Every once in a while, I think we catch a candid look at the religious playbook where they tell us what they're doing, and it isn't as positive as they'd like to think that it is. Mostly it's just them making fools of themselves and revealing just how disinterested they are in reality. So let's do some more of that today. Won't that be fun? Today, we're going to do something just a little different. This is Greg Koukl speaking on Frank Turek's channel in a moment of unscripted honesty that we don't tend to see from them all that often. This is what they're really doing and why it's so despicable. A lot of people get on me for saying that these are con men, but here it is, straight from the horse's mouth. This is not how you engage in rational, intelligent, honest conversations. This is how you run a con to suck the wallets dry of everyone in the audience. So let's take a look.
Okay, I got Mike asking, if I only ask my opponent questions, won't I be allowing him to suck up all the airtime with everyone listening?
I have absolutely no idea what the context of that question is, but what the heck, we'll go with it. I've seen lots of theists, not just Christians, who will do that. They will ask questions in hopes, apparently, that their opponent will just make a fool of themselves. And this happens a lot when the video or the podcast or whatever has a massive religious audience that brings a lot of religious preconceptions to the table. Anything that the atheist, I'm supposing in this case, says is going to be dismissed automatically because it doesn't fit into the religious mold. Plus, if the theist doesn't say anything stupid, then nobody can make fun of them. I guess it's a win-win situation for the religious if they do it right. And a lot of the time they don't, but if they can, it's not too bad. So let's see what Greg has to say.
Well, there's a point there, but if you are doing the game plan correctly, the advantage to everybody listening is that the guy's talking himself into a hole much of the time.
See? Now, it's a lot different if your audience isn't already religious. You don't get the same level of automatic confirmation bias that I suspect someone like Frank or Greg would be looking for. It's why a lot of the public debates fight to stuff the audience, especially when it's put on by a religious group on campus, who are doing absolutely everything that they can do to fill the chairs with theists who are automatically going to side with the religious debater. It's why these debates are so entirely pointless, because it's all about indoctrination, not education. It's all about popularity, not truth. The religious, they don't care about the facts. They just really want people to believe.
Okay.
Yep, apparently he's still doing it. Greg Koukl has had that verbal tick forever. You'd think somebody would have pointed it out to him by now.
Again, if you listen to Frank ask questions of, well, you do, because you're filming. But if the listeners will listen to Frank when he's asking questions at the university campus, you know, he's using the third use of Columbo, and that is to using questions to make the point.
So, to explain what he means to people who might not be in the know, this is a standard tactic from STR, going back at least a decade now. It's named after the old TV show where the bumbling detective Columbo would ask, "Well, I've got a question," or "one more thing."
You know, there's only one thing that I'm not clear about.
Actually, there is one thing.
What other thing? One more question, sir. About those sacks of gold.
And try to get the suspect to spill the beans. It's supposed to be an open-ended question meant to let the non-Christian fill in their own details under the banner of being non-threatening. Of course, when you do it back to them, they don't tend to like it very much, which is why it really isn't as useful as they like to think that it is. It's like the old school Gish Gallop, which was really, really successful when employed by the religious. But as soon as the non-religious caught on and started doing it back, it just kind of went away, at least for a while they hoped everybody forgot about it. They tend to get mad when we use their own tactics against them, because all of their tactics are patently dishonest. But let's get back to Greg.
Mhm.
And so he's using his questions to help expose a weakness or a flaw, usually, in the person's point of view.
And there you go. This isn't about having a coherent back and forth conversation based on getting to the truth. It's about trying to make a fool of the other side so everyone can see just how wonderful you actually are. It's why people like Greg Koukl are so dishonest. It's why he talks about tactics instead of facts. It's another good reason why I don't engage in these organized fool festivals with the religious, because they aren't after the same thing that I am. I am not after people reading a script, which, if you look at most apologists, that is exactly what they're doing. William Lane Craig, for example, he goes into all of his debates with a script. He doesn't care what the other person says. He cares what he wants to respond to. I'm not interested in theists trying to shake their dicks around. I just want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and demonstrable means to get there where I can prove that's actually what's going on. It's why the religious, they just don't get very far with me, because they just don't care about reality, and that's all that I care about.
And as the person is talking, trying to answer the appropriate question that Frank asks, they're, in a certain sense, they're getting deeper and deeper into a hole, and everybody's watching sees that.
Only if you've stacked your audience. Because remember, this is all just performance art. An actual search for truth doesn't have to be in front of an audience. In fact, it's more helpful if it's not. Now, once the conversation is done, sure, you can just put it out there for others to see. But that doesn't happen to help the religious, does it? They're just looking for a paycheck, so they need a bunch of fools in the audience to pay their way. Their goals and my goals are just not the same. I want truth. They want to top off their bank account. It's obvious in the way that they operate. For me, the truth is its own reward. It's why I've been doing this for, 8, 10 years? I don't know. And I'm not really making much at it. Thank you for my few patrons who have thrown in a couple of bucks here and there, but that is not what this is all about. I care what's actually going on in the real world, and the religious clearly do not. It's just not very often that we see established apologists getting up on camera and admitting what they're after. This is not something that they ought to be proud of. It absolutely is not.
So there's nothing wrong with letting the other person do the talking, because, if I want to be careful how I say this, but I know Rush Limbaugh said many years ago, if a person wants to make a fool of themselves, get out of the way.
Which is kind of what we do with you. I let them speak, and then I point out exactly where they're being stupid. So I guess that's pretty common. The longer we let Daniel King talk, the more of a buffoon he appears to be. That's why they try to be very careful about the audience that they pick, although I guess here on YouTube, with few exceptions, your videos are open to all comers, and the second that we see what they're really trying to do, it's really pretty easy to tear it all down. They don't care about the truth. They care about comfort and cash on the barrelhead. Once you do away with their unrealistic expectations, the whole religious house of cards comes tumbling down. And I guess from my perspective, that's kind of fun, isn't it?
Okay.
Okay. Say, love alfalfa. Okay. What's up, guys?
Now, the non-believer is not always making a fool out of themselves. That's not my point. But a lot of times they can make their point better than you can if your questions are properly put. And so that's really the point there. Let them, in a certain sense, talk as much as they want, in a way that if your questions are good, it's going to cause them to make your point for you better than you'll be able to do in that environment.
Except you don't understand that you're doing the exact same thing for us. The more that you talk, the more stupid that you look. Yes, for my audience, the one that doesn't take any of your claims seriously, that's kind of a given. But here's the difference. I'm actually looking for truth. I'm not running on pure fifis and faith. I expect evidence for things that you claim, and I have evidence for things that I claim. I can actually explain my thought processes beyond I really want to believe. That's kind of the point. I am not here passing around the collection plate expecting to be supported while I ramble on and on and on about crap that nobody ought to take seriously. I want the truth, the whole truth, and absolutely nothing but the truth. And I expect people to be able to show that their claims are factually correct, with evidence, and with no regards for their feelings. And the religious don't do that. Frank Turek doesn't do that. Greg Koukl doesn't do that. William Lane Craig doesn't do that. They're just prancing around on a stage, spewing a load of religious bullshit to people in the audience who not only don't know any better, they just don't care. They want to believe because it makes them happy. They don't care if it's actually true. And I don't care about happiness at all. Facts are facts, and your fifis don't matter. This is exactly why people like Frank and Greg and Low Bar Bill are all so absurd. They are not remotely concerned with reality. You just have to listen to them. They know the expectations of the audience and they deliver it, knowing that nobody's going to ask any difficult questions because nobody cares whether this steaming load of horse manure is real or not. What difference does it make? What difference indeed?
What do you say? Give a man enough rope and he hang himself?
Something like that, sure.
Yeah.
And that's why we just let you talk, because you just prove that everything we say about you is true. Again, this is why I don't do these ridiculous organized debates. You get people like William Lane Craig showing up with a script to read because he's just feeding the religious audience what they want. This is not about the truth. This is not about the facts. This is not about coming to the most rational, reasonable, evidence-based conclusion that you can. It's about meeting expectations for a paycheck. Never do anything that's going to piss your marks off. But see, that is not how science works. Scientists go where the evidence leads, even if it's off the beaten path. If you're right, you get commended. If you're wrong, if you're really wrong, you get destroyed. Nobody cares about your happiness or about convincing others of things for a buck. Truth is all that matters. Whereas with religion, truth doesn't matter at all. It's why apologists are just the inspirational speakers of the religious world. It's all about pandering and never about finding the actual facts, because the actual facts are hazardous to your bottom line. That's why we have con artists like those on the stage, because they just don't care. They probably know that what they're spouting is complete BS, and they just don't care because they are getting paid to lie through their teeth. Even if they do believe it, and I'm not saying they don't, but even if they do, they are not thinking critically about any of their beliefs, because thinking is hard. Conning stupid people in the audience, that's simple. That's why they don't want to talk to us, because we see right through their tactics. And of course, we don't pay them. Therefore, they just see no profit motive in doing actual critical research. It's no wonder religion is the mess that it is. And I hope nobody is surprised.